Hey everyone, long time no see. I recently had the idea that I wanted to start a series on how to improve and get to one dan. And one of the things that I think helps most people improve is just making their group strong or recognizing that they're strong versus weak. So I wanted to start a series on showing how to do that at different levels because what is strong versus weak at 10Q is a little bit different at 5Q, and then it's a little bit different again at 1 dan. And then as you get stronger, it just keeps changing. I'm going to try and mix up the ranks and go over the differences. But yeah, let's get started. So this is a Fox 10Q game, and I am playing black. So white already kind of tanuki'd here, and I definitely recommend just blocking here. Even though I think AI says you can just Tanuki this, but I think at around the 10Q level, you just need to get used to keeping your group strong. I think this guy is trying to copy AI opening, which is just a little bit more complicated to understand. So he jumps into the 3-3. I just extend, because again, part of keeping strong groups is avoiding cutting points. And then I made a base of some kind. If you wanted to, you could also play closer if you're a little bit worried about this. But any kind of base should be okay. He plays here right away. Not very good, but we're just going to Hane connect, because again, our goal is to keep our group strong. And a big part of staying strong is to have eye shape. So here you can kind of see we're starting to form some eyes here. We have one here and maybe one here. And then we have support over here. So this group is very strong now. Okay, and so he Tanukis. Same with this one. When he attaches to our stone, we want to stay as strong as possible. So anything like this is normally not good because they can double Hane and then you have cutting points and you're kind of being forced into this direction. So it's normal to just extend up here. And now they have Aji. So if he Tanuki is here, we can now attach here. And then there's this kind of normal way to punish, where you can just kind of surround, defend your cutting points, and then now you have a strong group here, and it has influence over the whole board. But instead, he played this Hane. And again, we just want to keep our group strong, so we Hane back, and then go to make eye shape. And then he plays here. So this is kind of helping fix his weakness. So it's not the worst move. But if we were to, say, try to play at a big place, now they have this Hane at the head of 2 stones, which if we try to Hane back, they can Hane again, and they're threatening this double Atari. So we have to keep extending. They connect here, and now you can see they have this big potential on the side here. And we also probably need to play another move here. So if we Tanuki again, and they push, they have this Hane at the head of 2 stones again. And if we try to do this one, they can cut, and then we have to worry about a double Atari. So we probably would have to push here, and then they can jump here, because they don't have to worry about a cut, because they can do a net. So even though this move kind of looks small, it's actually very big, because it's growing black's area while reducing white's. And then he pushes here. So this corner group is actually very strong. Even if we surround it, it probably should live. So we don't want to Hane here, because he's going to cut. So again, when they are side by side like this, the first move you should look at normally is the extent. Hane is the second one, and then you have to check if the cut is good or not. But in the game, I just extended, because again, he has a strong group. My group is strong too, but when he cuts, it starts a fight in this side of the board, which he has some extra stones here. So it's starting a fight in his area. Okay, so he Tanukis here, and this is very similar to this one over here. You don't want to allow the Hane at the head of 2 or 3 stones, because if you Tanuki here, he can play like this. And then even though there's Ataris here and some Aji you have to worry about later. So again, I just extended. he pushed here. And this is kind of the same reason. If I play here, he's going to cut. And my stones are pretty far away, so even though this probably could work out, I think for now, especially around like the high Q level, just extending and building your own area and letting them get some points on the side is much better. So here I kind of just keep extending. And even though he made some points here, if we compare this area that he made to this area, you can see black is making a lot more. And he tanukis. So now if we were to play somewhere else, not sure where, this is probably good enough too because this area is just a little bit too big, but he can keep pushing here. And if we keep pushing, even though this is probably good enough for black, because this area is just too big, he's making a lot of solid points. So when he tanuki'd here, I want to try and reduce his points over here. So he's pretty strong here because he added a stone. So I don't really want to try something like this, because again, there's this push and cut, which maybe black can live on the side here, but as he's living, this potential in the center is going to go away. And even if you start a fight here, which again should probably be okay for black, it just seems like a unnecessary risk when you can just play the turn here. And now there's no cut. And if they play here, if they try to cut here, the ladder doesn't quite work for white. It's pretty close. Black ends up pushing through here. So being able to read your ladders and stuff and the basics like that is definitely very important for knowing how to keep your group strong. But even if the ladder didn't work, you would want to avoid this one because he can cut. So the best move here would be to push. Then if he goes here, there's a push and a cut, so you can just defend your cut somehow. He has to block. And you reduce him at least a little bit. You get some more stuff in the center, so you can just keep growing the center. That would also be pretty good. But after I turned here, he tanuki to jump into this area, which I think he kind of needs to at this point. It's a very big area. And when they attach like this again, I think the first moves you should look at would be the extend, because there's no cutting points. So if you extend this way, he can make a base here, but when you turn here, but even if he lives here, you're still getting lots of points on the side. Same with this one. If he goes here, you jump, and then you can just keep pushing and kind of just connect here, or even do like a knight's move. And even if he plays here, you can still take his base away, and this area is kind of big enough. But in the game, I played down, and he played this one. So now there's a cutting point here. So my corner is pretty strong because I can slide here. I can just jump here to live in the corner. And when you're very strong everywhere, like this group is very strong, this group is very strong, that's when you take the opportunity to start attacking. And so he pushed me this way, and now you can see this stone gets damaged. Okay. And again here, the first move you should look at is the extend. Because if you Hane here, even though I think this does work, because he's just a little bit too weak everywhere, there's this cut you have to worry about. But extending also works, because there's Aji on this side, and then I don't have to worry about my group getting cut. So he extends here. A good way to make your stone strong is to connect them. So I just kind of made this net here. So now both these groups are connected by killing this. And again, even if he can live on the side, you're making a lot of points here. And you made points on the side and probably in the corner, and then he still has to live somehow. And you're going to get some points in the center. He pushed here, which doesn't quite work. And then he turned here. And we just turned here because if we tanuki here and they push, then they have sensei. So they can play here, and now they're pretty much alive. So we turned here because we're strong, and since we're strong, we need to try and keep them weak. He Hanes, we Hane back, and then we want to take their base away. So we could play on the outside too, but there's like attaches here and still some weaknesses here. So it seems very hard to try and seal them in and do it in a good way without cutting points. So instead, I just took the base away from the side. And if he just does in the game where he pushes here, we just extend here. Because we could try something like this, but again, there's a cut here, which might work for us, but it's very risky. And just backing off here, we stay connected, and white still has weaknesses and no eyes. So there's no need to be super aggressive and try and get rid of every single eye. And here, this is even still a false eye. So he pushed here. Again, we have this cutting point, so we can play here or here. Both would be okay. I played this one just because it has a little bit more strength in the center and can maybe aim at surrounding next. While this one is also connected, but it's not as strong at the center. Because if you try to surround now, you have to do something like this to stay connected, and then he has attaches and he can run out. He can even maybe threaten a cut here later. So small difference, but as long as you're staying connected, it should still work out. So he plays here, which again is making a false eye. And again, we could just try to surround, but then there is still some weakness here where he can push out, maybe make an eye. So instead, I just, again, got rid of his eye, and now he's kind of a floating group here that's eyeless. And so the key of being able to do all this is that you have all these strong groups here. Like, black doesn't have any weak groups. If anything was weak here, trying to attack this could be risky, because if they just try to poke at your weak group, then they can use that to live. But here, there's no weak groups. So it's very difficult to try and pressure anything to make eyes. So here he just has to try and make eyes directly, which is much harder. He plays this one, which just doesn't quite work. Plays here, trying to get an eye here. So if you try to just poke out every single eye, normally that's not a good idea. Because now he can like push here and jump out. And even though you got rid of that eye, you can see he's starting to get out into the center. Which again, this still might work, but you can start to see there's some cutting points here you might need to start worrying about. But if you defend them, then again, he can keep running out. So instead, I just ran out this way, which again is protecting my weak group. My weakest group. I wouldn't call it weak, but it's the weakest one. And now he's forced to kind of run out here. But this group is strong, this group is strong, so I'm not too worried about him running out this direction. He poked here, we just stay connected. He's tried this one, but doesn't quite work. And then he Tanukis here. So this is just too big. So I just went ahead and surrounded it, because now he shouldn't be able to live. And then he played here, and then I play at a bigger place. So I could also try something like this, and again, keeps my groups connected and is still reducing. And then he can play something like this, and then as long as you stay connected, this is also good. But because I'm so strong here, and I don't really have any weak groups, I feel like I can go a little bit further. Because if you only have one weak group to deal with, it's much easier to try and make it a strong group. Okay, so he played here, so my whole goal is just to connect to my weak stone. He has to defend his cutting points, that's good. There's some weakness here, so I kind of just turned here. And then he protected his corner. Okay. And again, he plays here to put pressure on this group. But again, I already have almost one eye here, almost an eye here, and I have a strong group nearby. So there's really no issues with this. And he still has quite a bit of potential at the top. So I'm just going to try and reduce it while trying to stay connected as well. If he tries to cut here, I can just pull back. And if he cuts, it's not that big of a deal because I can just capture the stones. Instead, he plays here, which I think is good. He's making a lot of points. Though here he goes to defend the corner. I think he should probably keep pushing to keep the points. But again here, I just do a turn to stay connected. So if I tried this one, now there's a cut here. And if I push this way, he has some strong stones here, so this stone gets cut off. And if I push this way, now there's some Aji over here. Probably can't do it right away, but I can push a few times and then push here. And even though this looks like it might still work, there is some Aji to worry about. So it's better to, if you don't need to, it's better to play in a way where you don't have to worry about the cuts. Because normally when you leave a cut behind, that's when bad things happen. So we played here, and again, if I try this one, there's a cut here. So I jumped here. And when he pushes, there's another cut, so I defend the cut. He pushes through. Don't really have any issues here. So now if we look, this group is very strong, this group is very strong, this group is very strong. All my groups are strong. And he now has, he played two Space Knight, which has cutting points. So because I'm strong everywhere, now I can try and cut this and not have to worry too much. But if I had a weak group somewhere and I try to cut, then the game becomes very complicated. But the point is, before you start the fight, you want to make sure your groups are very strong. Okay, so I'm able to cut here. And normally when you cut, you want to avoid this one. Because now you can see both groups have only 2 liberties, and you can only defend 1. So if I defend this one, there's some Aji on this side. And if I defend this one, there's some Aji on this side where he can like push through and cut and stuff like that. So here you cut, because now when you cut, this stone has 3 liberties, and this one has 2, but because this is stronger, you only really have to worry about the weaker one. He played here. I think he probably just needs to try and sacrifice like this, but again, this is just too big. So he tries to live here. Okay, so he defended. So now at this point, I need to look at where my weaknesses are. So this group's okay, this group's very strong, this group's very strong. So I think the weakest groups would be this one and some weaknesses over here. So there's some Aji here, there's some cutting points here, and with this one, I'm pretty much connected. Like if he goes here, I can connect. If he goes here, I'm connected. So I played here to just try and fix the cutting points and any issues I had, and also make sure that this stays dead and separated. So he jumps here, and again, still some Aji here, so I go ahead and defend some more. He tries this one, and again, everything is just nice and connected. He tries to cut these off, but as long as I stay connected, that's good. He played this way, but he probably should try something on the outside. But then I can just poke at his eye shape, and because I'm so strong here, it seems very unlikely that he will live. But he played on this side for some reason, which allowed me to Atari here. And so now everything is just very strong, and it seems very unlikely that he will get 2 eyes. And then he resigned here. So this is one of the first steps, I think. So to get to from like 10Q to 5Q, it's about keeping your group strong. And when you're strong, attacking. But I see a lot of Q players, they'll have weak groups everywhere, and they just keep attacking and attacking, and then eventually something randomly dies because they just never defended it. So a lot of these moves, as you rank up, will become slow, and you need to play a little bit faster. But I think learning how to over-defend and make sure you're very, very strong is very important. So like if you try this, which hopefully you do, and you try to make your groups as strong as possible, and something ends up dying anyway, or a group that you thought was strong ends up getting attacked. I feel like that's a great learning point. It means what you thought was strong was wrong, and you need to look at it more closely and review and figure out why you thought it was strong and why it actually wasn't. But hopefully you like this idea, and I will try and keep making them. And just let me know what you think in the comments of this idea, and I will see you all next time.